My uncle wanted me to divorce my wife, so his son could marry her and inherit our wealth. I never imagined I would be here sharing my own story of betrayal. For years, I believed that finding an honest and sincere partner was almost impossible, like looking for a unicorn, something you hear about but never actually find. My name is Nathan, I'm 37 years old and I work in the architecture sector, where I've built a solid and stable career. I'm not the kind of man who complains about being put in the friend zone or anything like that. I consider myself direct, hardworking, and have always strived to be a good partner. In previous relationships, I used to be the one who remembered important dates, bought flowers for no particular reason, and really listened when my partner talked about her day. Yet these relationships always seemed to end the same way, with me hurting. I reached a point where I questioned whether all this effort was still worth it, whether being attentive and present was really valued nowadays. The experience left me skeptical, and I wasn't looking for a new relationship when it all happened. Then I met Amanda about 5 years ago, when she was 32. It wasn't some movie date or magical moment. We were simply introduced by a mutual friend during a small get-together. What caught my attention was his genuine smile, something that seemed genuine and not forced. We ended up talking for hours that night and exchanged contact details. 3 months later, we were officially together. In the beginning, there was that intense excitement of seeing each other, that undeniable chemistry that makes you feel like you found someone special. I remember clearly the day I realized that this was no longer just a passing affair. I was developing deep feelings. It felt like I had finally found someone who valued what I had to offer, someone with whom I could build something solid and lasting. Amanda looked different from everyone else. We had a lot in common, like our passion for hiking and discovering new restaurants, but we also maintained our individual interests, which I considered healthy. I am passionate about restoring old cars and participating in car shows. She showed superficial interest, which was more than enough for me. Amanda, in turn, dedicated herself to ceramics, creating incredible pieces. I admired his art, even though I didn't have the patience to learn the craft. These differences gave us things to talk about, things to teach each other. Everything seemed to fit perfectly in those early years, as if we were building something real together. We were relatively young, still finding our way in the world, but doing so as partners. We felt like we were on the right track, making plans for the future, imagining what our lives would be like in a few years. Our jobs were quite different, which ended up being relevant to this story. As I mentioned, I work with architectural projects, spending most of my time between offices and construction sites. It's a job that requires physical presence and leaves me with relatively fixed hours. Amanda, on the other hand, worked in the marketing department of a technology company. Initially, she had a traditional office schedule, but after some time, her company started offering the option of remote work, which she accepted immediately. At first, I thought it was great. It meant more flexibility for her and potentially more time we could spend together, even if it was just being in the same house while she worked. I have always supported her career, encouraging her to achieve her professional goals and celebrating her achievements. I have always considered myself a good companion in every way. I'm not bragging, but I try to be thoughtful, present, and protective. This includes offering emotional support, being spontaneous, and, yes, also dedicating myself to intimacy. With Amanda, she felt like she had found someone she could truly trust. In past relationships, I've always had little doubts, little suspicions that maybe the other person wasn't being completely honest with me. But with Amanda, it was different. I'm not saying infidelity would be impossible, but it wasn't something I was actively concerned about. I genuinely believed we had something special, something built on trust and mutual respect. That's why what happened next hit me so hard, because I truly believed in what we had built. I never thought that after 5 years together, after so many shared moments and plans for the future, I would be betrayed in this way. The fall was much more painful because the trust was so deep. It all started subtly. Amanda started acting strangely. It's hard to describe exactly what changed, but she just looked different. I started to notice that she was being more reserved with her cell phone, hiding the screen when I approached, taking calls in another room. She was less affectionate, less interested in spending time with me. I often said I was tired, even on weekends when we normally made plans together. At first, I didn't pay much attention. I thought maybe she was stressed about work since she was trying so hard to get a promotion. I kept telling myself, don't jump to conclusions, it's probably nothing. I really wanted to believe it was nothing serious. My initial reaction was just curiosity. I wanted to understand what was happening to her, why she seemed so distant. I was completely blind to the bigger picture at that moment. The strange behavior continued for weeks, with only small glimpses of the Amanda I knew. These moments of normalcy were just enough to keep me hopeful, to make me think that maybe I was overreacting. But suspicion grew more and more. Still, even at that point, I didn't immediately think about cheating. I figured maybe she was going through some kind of personal crisis, perhaps hiding a health problem or something similar. One night we were watching a movie, something we used to do on Saturdays. She seemed completely distracted, checking her phone constantly. When I asked about it, I said it was work emails. On a Saturday night? This was unusual, even for her. That's when I really started to get worried, feeling that unsettling feeling growing inside me. My concern gradually increased, until I decided to talk to my friend Marcus about the situation. Marcus is a good friend but somewhat cynical, especially about relationships. He went through a messy divorce a few years ago, which affected his outlook on everything. I told him what was going on, and he just laughed. He said something I've never forgotten: "Man, if she's a woman, she can cheat on you. No matter how good you are, how much you do for her, they all have it in them." He even mentioned that you could have it all: great job, good looks, but you could never be completely sure. That statement, harsh as it was, really resonated with me. It completely changed my perspective. Suddenly, every little thing Amanda did seemed suspicious. I went from worried and curious to actively suspecting she was having an affair. I could no longer live with that constant doubt, that permanent feeling that something was wrong. I decided I was going to find out what was really going on. I read a lot of advice online about how to deal with suspected cheating, and a lot of it mentioned checking your partner's phone. But before I get to that point, I wanted to try a more direct approach. I planned a special dinner. I prepared her favorite pasta, the one we used to make together when things were going well. I even set the table with candles, trying to create a relaxed and comfortable atmosphere. I wanted her to feel safe, like she could talk to me. I waited for her to get home and, after we had dinner, I brought up the subject. He said he was worried about her, that I noticed she was acting different and just wanted to know what was going on. So I asked directly, "Are you cheating on me?" She looked shocked. Her hands started to shake, and she couldn't look me in the eyes. He stuttered, struggled to find words. It was painful to watch, honestly. Finally, he denied it. He said he couldn't believe I would even ask something like that he loved me, that we had been together for 5 years. She got teary-eyed, almost hysterical. It was a whole performance. But here's the thing, I didn't believe her. Maybe it was Marcus's words echoing in my mind, maybe it was my own instinct, but something didn't feel right. I expected her to be angry, outraged that I would accuse her of something like that. But she didn't stay. She seemed more dejected, like she was just sad that I had even thought about it. And he accepted my apology too quickly when I said I was sorry for accusing her. It just didn't make sense. So I did something I'm not proud of, but I felt like I needed to do. I pretended to believe her. I apologized again, said I was just being paranoid, and we went to bed. But I couldn't sleep. It was a strategic move on my part. I knew that if I wanted to get to the bottom of this, I needed to make her think I trusted her again. He needed her to let her guard down. I knew what I was going to do, but I had to wait for the right moment. It would be a long night, with my thoughts spinning non-stop. That doubt was eating me up inside. I waited until I was absolutely sure that Amanda was asleep. It was around 3:20 in the morning, according to my cell phone. I was lying there, staring at the ceiling for hours. My heart was pounding and I felt nauseous, but I knew I needed to do this. Carefully, I got out of bed, took her cell phone from the nightstand, and went to the bathroom. I opened his messages and started checking. First, I went to the gallery and looked for suspicious images. Nothing. So I went to messages, and that's when I saw it. A contact called Marketing Consulting. Why would Amanda be exchanging messages with a supposed consultant at odd hours of the morning? I knew immediately it was a fake name, a cover. It was so obvious, so juvenile, it almost made me laugh. I clicked on the conversation and my world crumbled around me. The messages were from someone named Lucas, and they were explicit. affectionate nicknames, conversations about how much they missed each other, bold hints, and even some suggestive photos. Messages like, "I can't stop thinking about your smile," from Lucas, and Amanda replying, "You're making it hard to concentrate on work, you know?" There was even a photo of Amanda wearing some new lingerie she had bought, with a message saying, "I wish you were here to take this." Everything was there, in black and white. They hadn't explicitly said they'd slept together yet, but the emotional intimacy, the suggestive messages, it was all there. It was clearly an affair, as simple as that, and it had been going on for at least a few weeks, which coincided perfectly with when she started acting strangely. As I sat on the bathroom floor reading those messages, I felt like I was having a panic attack. My heart was racing, I was hyperventilating, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. I wanted to scream, break something, wake her up then and confront her. I even had thoughts about meeting this Lucas guy and, well, I won't go into details, but they weren't pretty thoughts. I was heartbroken, devastated, furious, all at the same time. 5 years. 5 years I invested in this relationship, and everything was a lie. I kept thinking, how could she do this? Was anything ever real? Did she really love me at some point? It was as if my entire reality had been shattered. In a way, I felt relief that I found out relatively early, before we got married or had kids. But I was also incredibly irritated by the way she went about it. The childish code names, the silly emojis, the whole situation. I felt like my sanity was slipping away, like I was losing control. I knew I needed to get out of there, breathe a little, figure out what to do next. I spent the next hour documenting everything, took screenshots, took notes, made sure I had everything recorded. After documenting everything, I needed to draw up an action plan. I sat on the bathroom floor and started thinking about everything. I wasn't sure how to proceed. So many thoughts were running through my head, the anger growing by the minute. I had a lot of options in mind, the loud, public options, telling all our friends and family, posting everything online for everyone to see, handing out flyers at her workplace. Or the silent options, walk away without saying anything, contact a lawyer, just move out. I knew I wanted her to feel the pain she had caused me, but that I didn't want to lower myself to a level that would make me look like the villain in the story. I realized that I had a lot of advantage in that situation. I was financially stable, had a good job in architecture and all the benefits and security that came with that. Amanda, on the other hand, was facing difficulties in her career. Marketing was not a profitable area for her, and she was making little money. I knew that I was the one who made it possible for her to live in the expensive city where we lived. Without my income, she would struggle. This gave me some ideas. One thing I knew for sure, I would be fine without her. So here I am, still processing everything. I'm hurt, angry, and trying to figure out my next move. I know I need to finish things, but I'm pondering the best way to do that. I decided to wait. Our lease was ending in approximately 3 months, and it was in my name. I thought this would be the best time to make my move. This would give me time to plan, organize everything and maximize the impact of my actions. I needed time to find a new apartment, something that fit my budget and was closer to work. I also needed to start collecting boxes and contacting some friends for help with the move. It was a lot to do, but I had a plan. Oh, and one more thing. About a month after checking her cell phone, I discovered that Amanda and Lucas actually slept together. I found out later, and honestly, it just made things easier for me. It solidified my decision to leave, removed any lingering doubt or temptation to try to fix things. It was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. I've heard that people who cheat often lose interest once the forbidden aspect of the affair is over. I have a feeling Amanda and Lucas' relationship isn't going to last. It's just a fantasy built on lies and deception. But that's their problem, not mine. The last month of the lease arrived, and it was time to act. I had been planning this for months and I was ready. I picked a day when I knew Amanda would be working late. She told me she had an important client dinner or something, which honestly, I didn't even care anymore if it was true or not. It just gave me the opportunity one needed. I had already sorted everything out with my friends, the same ones who knew the whole story, including Marcus, of course. They were more than willing to help. They had been telling me for weeks that I deserved better, that I needed to move on, and that they would be there for me no matter what. Good friends, I'm lucky to have them. Having their support made me feel so much better about my actions. We met at the apartment in the early afternoon. I had already packed most of my things into boxes, labeling them clearly so I knew what was what. We worked quickly and efficiently. These guys were like a well-oiled machine. We loaded the truck with everything that belonged to me, which, honestly, was about 80% of the things in the apartment: furniture, electronics, kitchen utensils, my clothes, my tools, everything. I wanted to leave her with as little as possible. I wanted her to feel the emptiness, the abyss that I had been feeling for months. The new apartment was actually closer to my work, which was a bonus. It was smaller, but it was clean and it was mine. Just a new beginning. We were able to do the entire move in about 4 hours. It was surprisingly quick considering how much stuff I had. I remember looking around the apartment before we left. It was almost completely empty. Empty shelves, bare walls, just a few pieces of furniture that Amanda had brought into the relationship. It looked sad, and honestly, it made me feel good. A strange mix of sadness and anger was building, knowing I was actually doing this, but there was also a feeling of release. I was finally free. Before leaving, I did one last thing. I grabbed a piece of paper and wrote a short, simple note: "Goodbye. Enjoy your time with Lucas." I debated with myself for a while about what, if anything, to write. I thought about writing a long, angry letter, venting all my hurt and frustration. But in the end, I decided that less was more. This was the perfect message. Short and to the point. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, exactly where she would see it when she walked in. I know it's a bit cliché, but it felt right. I even considered saying something more sarcastic, but decided against it. That was enough. My friends helped me unpack some of the essentials at the new place, but I told them I could handle the rest. I needed time alone to process everything, to get used to my new surroundings. I thanked them again for their help, and they left. I was very grateful to have them at this difficult time. Then came the hard part, the total disappearance. As soon as Amanda got home and found the note, my phone started ringing off the hook. Calls, texts, messages on every social media platform you can think of. She was panicking, obviously. It went from angry accusations to tearful pleas for forgiveness, all in the space of a few hours. She even tried to contact me through mutual friends, begging them to intervene. But I didn't respond. Not once. I ignored every call, every message, every attempt at contact. This was the crux of my revenge, if I can call it that: complete and utter silence. I wanted her to feel the same confusion, the same uncertainty, the same helplessness that I felt when I discovered her betrayal. It's been 3 weeks since I moved in, and I haven't said a single word to her. In fact, I'm enjoying imagining your panic. I'm sure she's freaking out, trying to understand how everything fell apart so quickly. A few days after moving in, I received a call from the landlord. He was obviously confused, wondering what was going on. Amanda must have told some story, but he wanted to hear my side. He contacted me on my cell phone. I told the truth. I explained everything about the case, about Lucas, about how I had moved because I couldn't live with a person who betrayed me. I told him that, obviously, I would not renew the contract. The owner was surprisingly understanding. He had known me for a few years, and I had always been a good tenant, paid my rent on time, never caused any problems. I think he appreciated my honesty. I also told him I was giving up the security deposit. I didn't even want a penny back. I didn't want Amanda to benefit in any way from my money. She told the landlord to do a thorough inspection of the apartment and make her own judgment about whether she deserved any of her deposit back. I trusted him to be fair. He gave me his word that he would make the right choice. Then the owner told me something that gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. He said Amanda couldn't afford the apartment on her own. She didn't have a roommate ready to move in, and her family lived too far away to help. She was facing eviction and was struggling to find a new place to live. It was a direct consequence of his actions, of his betrayal, and I'm not going to lie, it felt good to know that. I know some people might think I'm being cruel, that I should feel sorry for Amanda, but honestly, I don't. I gave her everything I had. I was a good partner. I was faithful. I was supportive. And she threw it all away for some cheap thrill. She made her choices, and now she has to live with the consequences. It's not about the money, or the apartment, or even the things I took. It's about the principle. It's about the pain she caused me, the disrespect she showed. It's about the fact that you can't just treat people like dirt and expect to get away with it. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't have a loving, committed partner and a secret affair on the side. The owner did the inspection. He contacted me and said everything was in order and he would refund my security deposit. I was happy about that, and he told me that he had served Amanda with the eviction notice. He was very pleased with the way I handled everything. I thanked him again and said I was happy to finally be moving on. Also, people advised me to block her and move on, so that's exactly what I did. A month after the last event, Amanda tried to contact me again. After I blocked her, she called me from a private number. It went straight to voicemail. I checked the message and instantly knew it was her. I called the number back. Amanda answered and immediately collapsed. He was crying, apologizing profusely, saying he had nowhere to go. His voice was hoarse, as if he had been crying for days. She looked exhausted, defeated. It was obvious that she realized she could no longer deny the affair. The game was over. She kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry," over and over again. He tried to offer explanations, excuses, but they were weak, unconvincing. "It just happened," she said. "I didn't want it to happen." I was confused. It was pathetic, really. She even tried to appeal to my past feelings by reminding me of all the good times we shared. "You still care about me, don't you?" she asked, her voice cracking. I was desperate, clinging to any hope, trying anything to change my mind. She began to express how uncertain she was about her future. She didn't know what she was going to do and stated that she had nowhere to go. I listened to his pleas for a few moments. I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, the full impact of what she had done. Then I let out a short, humorless laugh. It was a sharp, dismissive sound, the kind of laugh that conveys disbelief and contempt. "You know, Amanda," I said, "it's funny. You spent weeks, maybe months, going behind my back, lying to my face, and now you expect me to feel sorry for you." I paused, letting my words sink in. "You made your choices. You destroyed what we had, and now you're reaping the consequences." I delivered the final decisive blow. "You have Lucas," I said, in a monotonous and emotionless voice. "Go live with him." And then I hung up. I didn't give her a chance to respond, to argue, to beg. I simply ended the call abruptly, in the middle of a sentence, if she even tried to say anything. Right after hanging up, I went through all my social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, everything, and blocked her too. I erased his digital presence from my life as completely as I had erased his physical presence from my apartment. I even considered deleting old photos and messages, but decided to keep them for now, as a reminder of what I've been through and what I've overcome. I sat down and a strange calm came over me. I didn't feel a rush of euphoria or a sense of triumph, just a calm, steady sense of closure. It was like a weight had been lifted, a burden I had been carrying for months finally released. I started thinking to myself, justifying my actions, not to anyone else, but to myself. I don't know where she'll go, I thought, and honestly, I don't care. She made her choice, now she has to face the consequences. I strengthened my conviction that she deserved whatever hardship came her way. He didn't see it as an act of revenge, but as a natural consequence of his choices. She cheated on me, lied to me, and destroyed our relationship. She had to face the reality of this without me cushioning the blow. I knew the pain I had been through, the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety, the feeling of being completely useless. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but I also wouldn't protect Amanda from the consequences of her actions. If she ended up on the street, it would be deserved. That was my final thought on the matter, a testament to my complete lack of empathy for her at that moment. Over the next few weeks, I focused on rebuilding my life. I immersed myself in work, took up old hobbies that I had put aside, and started going out with friends more. It was a healing process, slow but constant. Eventually, the memories of Amanda and the betrayal began to lose their hold on me. They haven't disappeared completely, I doubt they ever will, but they have become more distant, less painful. Looking back now, I realize that although the way I discovered the betrayal was devastating, it ultimately made me a stronger person. I learned to value myself, to set clear limits and not allow anyone to treat me with less respect than I deserve. I also learned to recognize warning signs in future relationships. I don't want to become paranoid or cynical, but I am now more aware of the subtle indicators of dishonesty. I still believe in love and the possibility of finding a partner who shares my values of honesty and loyalty. I'll just be more careful next time. Some people might say I was cruel to Amanda, who could have handled the situation in a more mature way. Maybe they're right. I could have confronted her directly, we could have had a final conversation, I could have given her the chance to explain. But after being lied to for so long, after having my trust completely betrayed, I chose the path that would give me the closure I needed. I don't regret it. Sometimes people need to face severe consequences to truly understand the impact of their actions. I hope she learned her lesson, not out of revenge, but because I genuinely hope she grows up and becomes a better person. One thing I never did was ask about Lucas. I didn't want to know who he was, how they met, or any details about their relationship. This would only bring me more pain, more obsessive thoughts, more insecurities. I left that behind along with everything else. To me, he was just a character in a sad story, not someone who deserved space in my thoughts. What matters is that I moved on, I rebuilt my life on more solid foundations. I have a new apartment, a stable job, loyal friends, and, most importantly, my dignity and self-esteem are intact. Time is a great healer, as they say. Every day that passes, the wound hurts a little less. I no longer wake up thinking about her, I no longer dream about the moments we shared. The places we used to go together no longer awaken that pang of pain in the chest. I'm living my life on my own terms, and there's something indescribably freeing about that. It was a difficult lesson to learn, but a valuable one. Some relationships aren't meant to last, some people aren't who we think they are, and that's okay. The important thing is how we react when we discover the truth, how we recover, how we grow. And that's how my story ends, at least for now. A story of betrayal, pain, meticulous planning, and, finally, liberation. But the most important thing is not what happened to me, it's what you will do with this experience I shared. Are you in a relationship where you feel like something is wrong? Are you ignoring warning signs because it's easier than facing the truth? Or maybe you are like I was, giving your all and not getting the same in return. Life is too short to be stuck in relationships that diminish us, that drain our energy, that make us question our worth. You deserve more. You deserve someone who is as loyal to you as you are to that person. Someone who doesn't need to hide their cell phone, who doesn't need to make excuses to go out, who doesn't make you feel insecure or paranoid. True love exists, but it needs to be built on a foundation of honesty, respect, and mutual trust. Think about it. How many Amandas and how many Lucas are there out there, ready to betray the trust of well-intentioned people like you? And most importantly, do you have the courage to take charge of the situation and do what is necessary to protect your dignity? Because in the end, that's what it's all about. Not revenge, but self-dignity, self-love, setting clear boundaries about how you allow yourself to be treated. Perhaps this is the most provocative question. Would you stay in a relationship where you are treated as a second option, where your loyalty is repaid with betrayal? Or would you give yourself the chance to find something better, something true? The choice is yours, but remember, every day you spend in a relationship that doesn't value you is a day that you could be investing in your own happiness, in your growth, in new possibilities. And if you're going through something similar to what I went through, know that you're not alone. Thousands of people face betrayal every day, and many of them emerge stronger, wiser, and eventually happier. You can be one of them too. So, what are you going to do from now on? What courageous decision are you ready to make? What life change is waiting for you just around the corner? If this story impacted you in any way, don't let the learning die here. Share with people who need to hear this, leave your comment telling your own experience, and of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue receiving stories like this, stories that can change perspectives and, who knows, even save relationships, or end them when necessary. True wisdom is knowing the difference.